I know this video isn't as relevant anymore because sort of during the height of quarantine, pandemic, COVID, all that stuff, right? A lot of people look to online options for Dungeons and Dragons, whether it be kind of voice chat and then doing like battle maps on Roll20, rolling dice on D&D Beyond, that kind of Avre. There's a ton of different sites, but I'm here to talk about an alternative method to that, and this is mainly for people who are both busy but also still want to engage in D&D. On Discord there are a lot of Dungeons and Dragons servers that are text-based, majorly, is that a word? Mostly text-based, and it's a sort of play-by-post type format, done in a Westmarches style. So what this means essentially is that anyone who kind of is approved and wants to can DM. They post like messages saying, I need players between levels 3 through 6, maximum 6. They react, and then the encounter is done, right? And then there's stuff you can do between encounters, like some passive things. I've seen a few different versions, very much like an MMO, where you can do things like fishing and whatnot, and carousing while you're in downtime. But others have like guild systems as things you can do that kind of to get passive XP and gold, to kind of encourage increased activity. Essentially, what is I mean, I know D&D is you get what you want out of it, but servers are even more so because you're not completely restrained by what the dynamic of the party is. Like for example, say your party is mostly murder hobos, right? You're gonna get a very specific style of play that is a lot more lighthearted and fun. That's great for some people, but some people want more kind of in-depth role play and things like that. And some parties can give you that, especially if you're very, critical role, like a lot aren't. So, essentially, in servers, yes, there are people who just want to grind encounters, and if you're that person, that's great. You can be a murderer hobo on the server, or you can RP with other people. Ironically, that's one of the things I did most on something that isn't time restrained, is that you get to RP with other players and talk about sort of the plot lines going around, or just kind of share backstories in general, or just sort of get to have a chance to grow because you are playing on the server, for over however long period of time. And if you're regular enough on it, you can build bonds quicker because it's not just once per week sessions, and it can lead to some really compelling stuff. Again, if you just want to grind, that's fine. I've some servers I think you can level up incredibly fast, which is why I've been able to try sort of like more higher level builds, which is great to kind of test stuff out that I don't normally get to test out. Are also pretty big, so there's always kind of someone available, though not always, because there is like time zone stuff, and things like that. And then also, again, like, what you're getting with a campaign. You get to know the people, the small amount of people involved. You get to have the experience you want. You know what the DM is going to give you. You don't with this, right? If you're wanting more RP kind of encounters, you might not get that from a lot of DMs or things like that. Or if you just want to fight and there's a kind of a setup beforehand. And additionally, there are going to be people you don't necessarily like on the server. That's just how it is. Fortunately, you get to have minimum interaction with them. But just because on servers, you have to have consistent rules, right? You can't have a lot of homebrew stuff because then everyone would want to have that, and then there's a balance issue, and we have like 60 plus people who each want their own homebrew stuff. That's a big problem. Whereas, you know, the DM can just introduce whatever items they want. Let's go to the plot. You have a lot more restrictions. Yeah, things have to be rules as written, but then you can also, at least in my experience, get items more readily available with crafting and stuff. So there's that to consider. And then, of course, because it's always in places like the server where people talk about different DMing styles, you get those arguments. But when it comes down to it, just DM how you want to, as long as it's in the you know, it's not like giving out homebrew items. I guess that's the main con, is that there are people who think D&D should be played differently, and they find places that are full of other people who share that hobby. Expel this knowledge, which has little function about the lore of Faerun or whatnot, even though the world is not exactly Faerun in the server or whatever it is, right? It just happens. I know I sound a bit toxic about it, but it's like, there you go. I mean, you'll find those people on Reddit, on anywhere. So that's the big con. It's the internet. But the good thing about that, again, is it's the internet. It's a chance for people to not have the weight of whatever real world stuff is, and just put that away and be someone else on the computer. You want to be a heroic fighter. You can even more so be that, because you're not judged for who you are in the real world here. All bets are off, and there's something, I don't know, there's something cool about that, freeing, which a lot of people enjoy, and I met a lot of cool people, and there's a lot of inclusive communities. Again, this is all coming from someone who gets a lot deeper into it than maybe some people do, because they are busy and they're just using it for time to play every once in a while, and that's great too. But yeah, overall, I think there's a lot of great stuff, and I got a lot of great memories, and tried a lot of interesting characters that I guess, so this is just a sort of expression that it's out there, it's an option. Again, it's not for everyone. I certainly prefer playing in person and having that campaign style, but this is great too, especially during over quarantine when that wasn't as much of an option. This is Sean from Dodecca Dungeon, signing off.